with Collins Harlan.
Welcome to Hire Away. Hire Away is a show where we talk about jobs, we talk about business, and we talk to the people that are operating those businesses and doing those jobs. These are people with skin in the game. I'm Collins. I'm a staffing specialist for labor finders, and we've got offices all over the country. If you're in St. Louis, we have one in North County, we have one in South County, and all you have to do, no matter where you're listening from, is go to laborfinders.com. That's laborfinders.com. Find the office nearest you. Call us up and we'll help you out. All right, so today on the show, we have Joseph Maddock. And Joe is with a company called Employers Consulting Group. And he helps companies save a lot of money, significant money on their healthcare costs. So let's get into this. Let's talk to Joe and let's do this thing.
Hire away!
Joseph Maddock, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me back on. This is fun. Am I your first returning guest?
You are our first. I don't know. You should get, I think, a prize for that or something, like maybe some blues tickets or something of that nature.
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna argue with you.
Yeah. Well, good. We'll work on it. I'll get something in the mail to you. No. So Employers Consulting Group, obviously, that's who you're representing. And folks, Joe saves you, his company saves you money on your health plan. And I'd like for you to just kind of recap what you do at the company there and what your title is and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I am the vice president of business development. And what I did was I partnered up with a gentleman named Bill Schmaltz a handful of months ago. And one of those lucky scenarios where you have a match made in heaven, excuse me, he's a very, very intelligent guy when it comes to building custom plans, figuring out how to fix a lot of the issues. And it was really something that I was searching for a long time. And I was starting to build out on my own. But let me tell you, building out a custom infrastructure like what we have, it's not something you put together overnight. It's not something that you just snap your fingers and it's done. It takes years to build. And I was absolutely dreading that build. And so it was fortuitous for sure that he and I connected, and I realized, hey, everything that I'm trying to build that I realize is going to take me 5 years to do this, Bill's already got the infrastructure laid out, and it helps that he's a really good guy to boot. So we partnered up a couple of months ago, and it lets me do what I really enjoy doing, which is going out, educating people, letting them know the pitfalls in the healthcare, health insurance, health finance, whatever the twisted web you want to call that thing is. It lets me get out there and just share what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, and healthcare is, most people don't really understand how it works. I certainly don't. I've learned a lot from talking to you, actually. And we were actually set to talk about something else big that's going on, and we can't. We've been told that we can't talk about it yet. So what I will tell my listeners is there's a lot of things Joe and his company can do for you to help you save money. And if you want to find out what that is, just contact Joe. He'll tell you all about it. How do people contact you, Joe?
Yeah, you can contact me by just calling my phone number, 314-825-0944. You can go to our website at ecgins.com. My email address, very, very simple, joe@ecgins.com. So that's all a couple ways that you can reach out. Obviously, this time of year is the busy season. I try to get back in touch with everyone as quickly as possible. But sometimes scheduling a call with our team is the quickest, best way to do it. And to quickly touch on the point that you made, that it sounds like a marketing ploy, right? We can't talk about it. You got to call me to reach out. We were actually, this was funny the way that it happened, because we were set up. We were completely set up, ready to have this conversation. And today I was on the phone with our attorney for this particular matter. And he said, for the time being, all media on this topic needs to be, what's the word that he used? It essentially said no media on this topic. because there's actually multiple ongoing lawsuits that large employer groups can participate in. But we can't talk too much about it because, of course, as they say, it's not an ongoing investigation, but it is an ongoing lawsuit. And so
Yeah.
if you are a large employer group, whether you're public or private, and you want to find out what the heck it is that we're talking about and quite honestly being a little cagey about.
I feel like we should start telling lawyer jokes at this point.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't want to get on anybody's bad side, especially theirs, but
No, but just give Joe a call. It's significant. We can say that much. And Joe and his company, if you go to the website, I think the website's a great option because it's a really good website, and you can get in touch with them very easily that way. So.
and that is a great point. The lawsuits that I'm talking about, there is additional information on our website.
There you
so
go.
if you go to ecgins.com, you can look at exactly what we're talking about that we can't talk about on media, and you can schedule a call with us right from there.
So take that, lawyers. Anyway, okay. So anyway,
They just want to make sure. I am not an attorney, so they want to make sure that that I understand the process. But if I share something that I shouldn't have shared, there's not the same recourse than if I were an attorney. And so they're just being careful. I don't want to get in trouble with the attorneys, and so
they're doing their
the best
job.
thing we can do.
They're protecting you guys so that you can continue to do what you do. So that's good. All right. So since we can't talk about that, do you juggle? Can we talk about what? Is there anything you want to talk? No. So do you juggle?
Yes, I do juggle. With the number of kids I have, that I would classify that as juggling. I juggle babies mostly.
I'm
safely, of course.
Getting a vision of that. That's pretty good. So crying babies, juggling babies.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something that, I know you're involved in this. AI is, that couldn't be a hotter topic, right? But in a way, people talk about it all the time. I'm kind of getting sick of hearing about it, but you can't get sick of hearing about it because it's getting better every day. It's look at all the layoffs that are happening, and the companies say, well, it's not AI driven. I don't know that I believe that, but whatever. But you're a big proponent of AI. You actually use it, I think, to your benefit with what you do. For me, I'm not so versed on it. How do you use AI in your daily life?
Oh, every single day, I feel like I come up with or I stumble across a new idea. And one of the things that I recommend to people that are interested is just, put some sort of alert or utilize whatever the news source, whether you have Apple News or you're utilizing Google's, setup. It'll keep giving you articles about different ideas for how you can utilize AI. But I will say some of the things that I've done recently. I'm an entrepreneur, right? There's a lot of guys out there where entrepreneurship means I really love coming up with ideas and then I just want to run with it. I love building systems. I love doing this. The problem is we can run into this thing called shiny object syndrome.
What's that?
It's where you come up with a new idea every day and then you go, hey, I'm going to go do that. And you're constantly chasing a new shiny object and you never get the actual work done, right? My job is to get out here and talk to people about where they're, being taken advantage of from the healthcare side of things. If I get some great idea about, and this actually happened to me, right? I get some great idea on how I could create a company for my wife where she, puts together front porches, for people and decorates things. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. We could make some money with this. And, she could have something to do that would be fun. And well, hold on. Is that actually trying to accomplish the mission here of educating people about healthcare? No, it's not. So I've recently utilized AI to help keep me on track.
Okay. That's funny.
So, yeah, it's people have talked about utilizing it as like a therapist, right? Or a counselor. And I would be very careful about some of the things that you say, because obviously this is all data that's out there. Anything you share with an AI platform, there's it's not your data anymore. So it's not your thoughts anymore. It now goes into the system. But I've noticed that it's very good if you utilize it similar to how somebody might say you utilize journaling, or meditation. I created a step-by-step weekly brief and debrief. It's all things that I wanted to write out, but I said, well, I want to be able to write it out from anywhere. And it would be really cool to have an interaction, where if I miss something, this thing could say, hey, remember how you said that 2 weeks ago? Well, this is popping up again. And I'm now in week 5 of that. And I've had some of the most amazing breakthroughs.
Really?
Over that 5 weeks. Yeah. And the shiny object syndrome actually came from this. It called me out for doing this, because it gets you in a lane. It says, Joe, what are you trying to accomplish? And you say, well, Mr. AI, I'm trying to accomplish this thing. And it says, okay, I got you. And then 2 weeks later, it'll say, so what do you think you should work on this week? And I'll say, well, I want to work on this week. And it goes, but wait a second, that has nothing to do with the mission that you said 2 weeks ago. Are you changing your mission, or do you need to change what you're planning on doing this week? And it makes you stop and think. AI is just a tool here. It's a thought partner in this scenario. And it's really helped clarify a number of things for me. I've been utilizing it for helping me with prioritization. So I have a list of 40 things that I want to do. Well, what's the most obvious thing for a lot of people to do? Well, you cross off the easy things first, and then the big things pile up. Well, if you throw it into the AI and you say, these are my priorities, and then you go back and you say, what should I work on? It's going to say the one thing that you don't want to do. And you're like, yes, I know I need to do that thing. So let's just knock it off the list.
So in essence, what it's doing is it's counterbalancing some of the negatives about human nature, which is shiny object syndrome, prioritization, mission creep, things like that. It's holding you accountable and keeping you on task.
Yeah, and it's really just reminding you of the things that you said already.
Kind of like a wife. Kind of like a wife. Yeah. Really, where's your wife? I mean, she could do that for you.
I don't tell my wife everything about my business.
That's probably good. That's good.
It's probably,
yeah. So it's good.
She would have divorced me by now, I'm sure.
So to me, it's a little creepy. I'm not as optimistic as you, but I actually admire how pragmatic you are and how you've learned to use it. I keep thinking about things like they throw a word out there that, because it's just getting better and better. These are large language models. But we're going towards this word they keep using, sentience. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't feel about it. Maybe that's the AI talking.
Is this the AI version of Joe tonight? Is that what that
right,
is? It's not you.
That's why I didn't come in studio. This is actually an AI rendering of the whole thing. No. Gotcha. It's not something that I think much about. Something like that is either going to happen or it's not going to happen. I'll tell you, that is not my biggest concern when it comes to AI. A much larger concern for me, and this is where it's going to start to get, conspiratorial, and we're going to get politics involved, and we're going to start talking about crazy stuff. But the bigger fear is how AI is going to be used as a weapon. It's already begun. It's just a matter of how far we get. And the old saying was, I think Albert Einstein is attributed with this, but what quote isn't Einstein attributed with at this point? But he said something to the effect of, I don't know with what weapons World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. And the whole idea behind it is whatever comes next will be cataclysmic. Some of the things that we've heard, especially China, utilizing AI for even 5, 6 years ago, in that kind of dystopian realm would shock you, right? Where its predictive capabilities 6 years ago are still things where you would go, I can't believe it's able to figure this out just based on probability. And so now, whenever you start talking about we're not just moving chess pieces. It's not who's going to build the best, board of risk, and move troops around. Now what we're talking about is how are we going to change citizens' thoughts and minds? How are we going to hack infrastructures? What happens to the industry infrastructure, the water infrastructure, all these things where AI is going to be able to break firewalls in seconds, what would normally take some person, 100,000 years to figure out how to hack into. If you have enough processing power, theoretically, you could hack into these defenses a lot quicker.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, what that does is that creates a race between global superpowers.
Yes.
And possibly even lesser powers on the map, but certainly a race we have to keep up. We have to try to win it, and it's imperative in your scenario, right? because it could be used as a weapon, and certainly already is.
Right. I mean, this is. We're talking about something that is growing faster than anything we've ever seen. You saw what the Industrial Revolution did, and then you see what the generation of the internal combustion engine has done to society, and you keep on going through, and we keep on increasing the magnitude of each one of these technological advances. And now we're at the AI point, and we are still, most of us, me included, we're still unable to grasp what this could actually become in just 5 years.
Are you sure you don't want to revisit the possibility of sentience? By your own admission.
I am more concerned with how people use it as a weapon than I am with AI becoming self-aware.
Well, I respect that opinion, and I tend to think that that's the first step. That's what we need to be focused on now. And you're very pragmatic, very intelligent. I'm not, but you are, and so we should probably focus on that. That's what we know now. So, but that, we talked about keeping up. That leads to how do we power it all? That's what you hear a lot is data centers. That I am so tired of hearing about data centers, but in this context, it suddenly is. I'm kind of
thinking make more sense.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it a little bit more seriously, because when you start to talk about how is AI being used against you, then data centers are the key component. Something's got to power it all. What do you know about data centers? And we're from Missouri. We're from the St. Louis area. In particular, we do a lot of work in Jefferson County. So what do you know about data centers, and are there any slated for the Jefferson County area? Do you know?
So what I can tell you is if you're tired of hearing about them now, you might want to stick your head in sand for the next few months, because I do see this as being maybe the number one or number two talking point from a political standpoint throughout next year's election cycle. And that goes for Jefferson County as well as the state. And I can tell you that we've also started hearing things from our Missouri congressmen. So you mentioned Jefferson County. Both Congressmen Onder and Smith have been making comments about some of these things. And I can tell you, whenever you start hearing from Washington, D.C., that, hey, this is a big deal, we need to start talking about this, the people in local government need to pay attention. But now we have the Balancing Act. And the Balancing Act is what we are going to have to discuss here in in Southwest Missouri, and honestly all of Missouri. But let's focus. Sorry, Southeast, Southeast Missouri. When you're talking about Jefferson County on down through the Boot Heel, which is again where Representatives Onder and Smith, yeah, represent. So as far as Jefferson County data centers, there has been, conversations about Festus. Festus has been kind of on the top of everyone kind of looking at it because they've recently set some new rules as to what they're going to allow if they allow a data center in. I don't know if you heard about the St. Charles City data center that was
voted down,
proposed, and then voted down because the people raised a big fuss about it, right? Mm-hmm. And from what I understand about that particular project, it was rightfully so. It was not a great location. There's already concerns about water issues there. They didn't have a great water filtration system proposed for that data center. You start looking at all the potential side effects of a data center. The one that most people are talking about is the electricity.
Yep.
And I know that even the state of Missouri is looking at it and saying, if we get the type of investment that some people are wanting, there's a lot of doubt that the Missouri grid could handle it. And so Missouri needs to start figuring out, well, what does that mean? Does it mean we're going to have to start saying no to these projects? Or does it mean we're going to have to figure out a way to generate a lot of electricity
I'm going to jump in
quickly and safely?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there because we had a guest on about a month ago, and she was talking about data centers, and electricity came up. I did some research because I kind of wanted to know a little bit about it before I talked to her. And to me, I feel like these problems with electricity are being solved. They were talking about smaller, compact nuclear reactors, dedicated grid systems for these data centers that wouldn't tax the grid across the state. So I tend to feel like if the information I got is correct, that these problems will be worked out. And I don't know about filtration, but you mentioned a balancing act. I mean, people are voting on this. So is that, what are you talking about with balancing act? Is it because of people, we need these, they're coming regardless, and they've got to be somewhere, but people have to vote them in at least? Is that what you're talking about with the balancing act?
So the people don't necessarily vote them in, but the representatives would have to approve them. And so when you look at St. Charles, it wasn't a vote of the constituents of St. Charles, but because those constituents raised raised their voices so much, the representatives there felt that it wouldn't be in their best interest to approve it anyway. And so the balancing act is obviously there's need. And we need to make sure that the citizens are heard and that we address the concerns of those citizens. So electricity being one. And yes, you're exactly right. Whenever we start talking about potential solutions, I personally don't see a path forward unless we can figure out how to do these small project nuclear facilities. Now, if we can do those, now you're talking about these buildings potentially putting electricity back into the grid, as opposed to just siphoning all of it off. Right. Now, of course, anytime you start talking about nuclear, not only do you get some eyebrows raised, which the technology has come leaps and bounds since anything has even gone wrong. And we, of course, talk about 2 or 3 massive failures. These are not the same systems, right? These are not the same systems that had failures. And you look at something like Japan that happened not too long ago, and you had a once-in-a-lifetime earthquake followed by a once-in-a-lifetime tsunami. And that's the reason why that place melted down. And everyone said, well, this is going to last for 90 years. Well, it's pretty much all cleaned up 2 years later. Right. So the impact on the environment, even whenever a catastrophic event happens, is not nearly as bad as what people have been kind of conditioned to think that it will be.
Well, and to your, go ahead.
We will still have to get federal approval, though, from what I understand, because anything related to nuclear, even with the smaller components, my understanding is you still have to get federal approval. It can't just be, us here in Jefferson County vote, hey, we're going to slap a nuclear plant a small scale nuclear plant right here. It's not that simple yet, unfortunately.
Well, and so that's where the politics will get involved. But I think what'll help when we get there is you mentioned that these new nuclear capabilities, it's not like people think of big silos like in The Simpsons, and it's not that way. And then they're even talking about closed loop nuclear, because another thing that comes up is, what do you do with the waste? That's a big one. But
right.
When I try to stay tuned into it, and I mean, the progress that they're making on these systems is pretty incredible. So I think that by the time we get there, which is going to be sooner than later, as you mentioned, unless I want to stick my head in the sand like an ostrich, I think that that'll help the political discussion. If you can remove the problem of waste and the stigma of what people think of when they hear nuclear, hopefully that'll make an easier path for the politicians to get this stuff done.
Right. And there are still some other things that are going to be brought up. Water, but as you mentioned, there's closed loop for energy. There's also closed loop systems for water, where you're not going to have the same leakage or leaching into the water system. That's going to have to be a portion of this. If it's not, I don't know how I would say, yeah, go ahead and come in and suck up all of our energy and destroy all of our water and put a big unsightly building, smack dab in the middle of our city. You can understand where people would say no.
Yeah.
But if all these things are done responsibly and they're done with those concerns in mind, they can make a lot of sense. They're not going to be big job creators. That's one of the other things. People will say, well, it's not going to create any jobs. Well, that's true, but there are going to have to be businesses that support this service. You're talking about stacks upon stacks, rows upon rows of electrical components. And if any of those go down, they need immediate repair. They're not going to be able to fly somebody in from San Francisco. It's going to take too long. So now you're talking about having local businesses that are going to pop up in order to support these infrastructures. And if we start doing it smartly here in Jefferson County, you can start looking at what other industries are going to be able to tie into that, whether it is the airport that everyone continues to talk about, or, you have a number of different manufacturing and industrial facilities that are at least being discussed, if not planned, for the Jefferson County region.
So that could be exciting. Joe, unfortunately, we're running really tight on time. We could talk for another hour on this, right? But
we could.
Before we go, you know what Jeff Bezos is proposing with data centers?
What's that?
Take a guess. Like where would Jeff Bezos put a data center?
A volcano.
Well, close, kind of. You're thinking in the right way. He wants to put them in space.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't it? I mean, it's a different thought,
One of the things I've been discussing with some people is, would caves be a viable option?
Interesting.
Right? Because it's somewhere that's going to be naturally cooler that might help with some of the energy costs on cooling. And I don't know, I'm not a scientist, an engineer on that, but it was just a thought that popped into my head. If you're trying to keep things out of sight and cool, well, that checks off two boxes.
Caves in space. Cool.
Right. Caves in space, both cool.
All right. Well, Joe, I appreciate you coming on. I really wish we had more time to talk about this. It's fascinating. I think people are going to like this. But one more time, what's the website for your company, Employers Consulting Group?
Yep. That's ecgins.com.
Okay. So business owners, HR folks that communicate with the business owners, entrepreneurs, give Joe a call. He'll tell you about some interesting things that you need to know about. Let's just put it that way. We're being cryptic tonight. That's okay, though. Give Joe a call and you'll find out what we're talking about. So, Joe, thanks for being on, man.
I appreciate you. Thanks for having me back on.
Have a good weekend. Wow, what a great episode. Wasn't that interesting? So I could have talked to Joe for at least another hour about this stuff. I'm going to go have to meet him for cigars and drinks sometime. But I really want to thank you for watching this show. Next week, we have Logan Kendall, who is Human Resource Director for a company here called Scrap Mart. They're actually a client of ours, so we do a lot of business with them. They have multiple sites in St. Louis, so it's going to be interesting. We're going to learn some things about that industry, which a lot of people don't really know about, and it's an interesting thing to explore. So what I'd love for you guys to do is stay tuned for the job of the week. But after you watch this video, please share it on your social media. It really means a lot to us. We really thank you for doing that. We're trying to grow. So thanks for watching Hire Away, and we'll see you next week, Tuesday at 10.
Hire Away with Collins Harlan.